What's up? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast. I'm your guy for the next hour. And man, I couldn't be more thrilled that you are giving me the opportunity to listen to my wisdom. What am I talking about? I don't have any wisdom. You guys are here for the guest. Of course, you're here with Copter Cahoon. Spencer Cahoon's in the house. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm excited to be here, Halsey. Looking forward to this.
Man, Spence, I gotta say, I mean this in the most unweird way. I love you, buddy. So glad to have you on. You're such a cool cat, and so glad to have this conversation. But before we talk about you and just the excitement that you have for helicopters and kind of your neat journey so far, I would be remiss to make sure that my audience was fully aware of my appreciation to Vertical Magazine and the MHM family for allowing my podcast, the Helicopter Podcast, to be part of the Vertical HeliCASTS platform, and to all of our other sponsors. Thank you so much. I wanted to wear all my Heli Life gear for this podcast because I know like you're a model for Heli Life.
I am.
And if you've been living under a rock lately and you haven't realized, Heli Life is now the proud apparel partner of the not just the Helicopter Podcast, but the Vertical HeliCASTS platform. There was a contest. I don't know if the contest is actually still going on when this airs, so I can't talk about the contest.
Okay.
But I know in the past, we've had some great contests with Heli Life where you can win some awesome apparel. If this is one of those episodes where you have to listen for a special word, then do it. If not, then we'll do it again some other time. It's totally fine. But super stoked. Heli Life, based out of Utah, started by York back in the day, and now kind of a co-collaboration with York and Spence and I's mutual buddy, Clint Pulver. Tell me about Heli Life, dude. What does Heli Life mean to you?
Oh, man. Heli Life is just like the only brand I know that just represents my love for helicopters, honestly. I'm a student pilot right now and go to the same school that Clint Pulver is at or was at, and got introduced through him. I knew of it before, but he really connected the dots for me. And you mentioned I was a model for him, got to go do a photo shoot. You can see me on their website. I had a really cool time doing that, but it just gives me a way to let everyone know I love helicopters. Everyone that knows me knows I'm always wearing something with a helicopter on it. And at the end of the day, Heli Life just has the coolest stuff. So I love them.
I totally agree. I love Heli Life. I was telling Clint recently, like I'm OG Heli Life. Like I have Heli Life apparel before Heli Life was a thing. That's so awesome. Like back in the day, Eurotech Canada did York gallons, Cherry Red 130, the one that I did the podcast in actually a couple years ago. Yeah. Kind of like I think the completion, honestly, that kind of put Eurotech Canada on the map for completion. Like shout out to Haas and his whole entire group, because that completion was awesome. And one of the cool things, I think Haas actually did it. Maybe it was York or it was a co-collab, but they made like some Heli Life shirts back in the day specific to that helicopter and that delivery. Wow. And so I actually have a couple. They're hanging on. They're not as quite as good quality as the shirts now. In fact, my long sleeve one has a big old armpit vent right now. But man, I feel like OG Heli Life. And yeah, I think it's cool, man. Like we're all helicopter guys and gals, and it's kind of funny that we have a little apparel brand within the space. And it's so true, Heli Life, man. And I was just so glad to see that this sponsorship came, because it just made sense to me. It's like, oh yeah, of course, the Helicopter Podcast should have a sponsorship with Heli Life. So
that's so awesome.
Kudos to MHM and Clint for working that out. And, I'm just grateful to rock the apparel. Spence, I saw you on all the ads, and I go on the website. I see you rocking it. You got the sweatshirt. You got the Tom Selleck mustache. So like, dude, you're just killing it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was pretty fun. It was the craziest photo shoot I've been a part of. The only photo shoot, but it was pretty cool.
Oh, you killing it, man. It's so cool. Well, Spence, thanks again for coming on the podcast. I know it's been a long day for you. So I just appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. You know, you and I have now known each other. I don't know. How long ago was it that you messaged me?
It was almost a year ago, coming up in like a couple months. It'll be a year.
That's insane. Yeah. So I'm just hanging out one day, and I think through my sales at HeliCASTS email, I get a message from Spencer, you know, introducing himself, giving me a little background, letting me know he's into school. I think it was even a little bit of a soft pitch about, you know, inquiring about helicopter sales and things like that. A bold move. Honestly, a cold email to a very, very, very powerful industry professional.
I was nervous,
like myself, and then we got on the phone. Man, I fell in love with Spencer on our phone call, and now Spence has been on the helicopter team for a few months. He's closed a helicopter deal. In fact, we talked about you on an earlier podcast today. I'm guessing the podcast has aired maybe a couple weeks after this airs, or a couple weeks before. But we were talking about Kirby and Kirby Chambliss. He's a big supporter of Quantum helicopters. We had Terry on from Quantum, and we were talking about the Kirby Chambliss bird. And I was like, told the whole story. So Spence is already rocking and rolling, student pilot. But I remember what caught me about you, Spencer, is your ability to network, man. You have been a powerhouse so far in networking, and it's opened up some really neat opportunities for you. You got to ferry an EC-130 T2 from all the way from Utah, I think, up to Colorado to Canada. You're flying around in people's helicopters all the time. You're doing a bunch of cool stuff. Tell me, kind of like, is it just something that's inherent in you that you're just a bit of a networker? Was it unintentional when you entered the helicopter space that you were just going to network? I'm just curious to hear, because I think you've honestly mastered it quite well.
Yeah. I feel like I came into the helicopter world a little bit late. And just how young I am, but how much experience you need to have to be a part of that world. I don't have a lot of experience. I've only been a student pilot for almost 10 months now. So coming up on a year. Don't even have my private yet.
Self-funded guy, flies when he flies on the weekends. He's writing his own check, and he's soloed. So, I mean, look,
I'm pretty fresh.
It's fresh, but you're doing it, brother.
Yeah. And the one thing I know about the industry is it comes down to a lot of the times who you know. And so the one leg up that I felt like I could get on early was meeting people and taking that leap to go talk to someone that lands down the road from me, or, you know, seeing a helicopter and figuring out who the owner is and reaching out to them. And so through just sheer tenacity, I pretty much know most people that either privately own a helicopter in Utah or have some sort of operation and have done a tour of their facility, flown in their helicopter, and just put myself into that world so that I could be known, even though I'm so new to being an actual pilot.
Yeah, dude, you've totally killed it on that. And talk about a mecca, Utah. Oh my gosh.
There's a helicopter hub around here.
That is the helicopter hub right now. So geographically convenient for you, just because it was like, you know, there's all this opportunity, but you still have to go out and make the calls, right? You still got to send the emails.
Yeah.
I know that you've connected. How did you and Eli connect? Obviously, Eli, the heli guy, I know my audience is familiar. He's been on the podcast. He's a positive influence on the influencer space, I would say, which I think is great. Like, I love that there's helicopter influencers, and I love that he's one.
Yeah. Because
he's a guy that does super cool things. He's a super cool guy.
Amazing.
He influenced me, by the way. I'm wearing Lululemon pants now. Thanks, Eli. So comfortable. Seriously. Yeah. Lululemon, give him a sponsorship, make him an ambassador. But how'd you kick it off with Eli?
So as you know, he is, you know, a big influencer on Instagram, and I have followed him for years and kind of saw his journey as he got to where he's at now, flying a 130. And he moved up to Utah, and I saw him flying around all the time. And so I decided, hey, if I'm going to get serious about helicopters, I want to pick someone's brain and actually, figure out if I should jump headfirst into this. And so I shot him a message in October and didn't hear from him for 6 months, and then shot him another message. He's a busy guy. I can't blame him.
He has a lot of followers. I'm sure his DMs are hot.
Oh yeah. And so I just was consistent, and I reached out to him again and caught him when he was on Instagram. We talked back and forth, and I said, hey, I will go buy you lunch to just take 30 minutes of your time. I'll make it worth your while. And we met at, I think it was Chipotle, up just right by his house. And I was only planning on being there 30 minutes. I was still, working at the time. And so I did a quick little lunch break, and it turned into a 2-3 hour conversation. And he really just let me know everything that I needed to know to make a decision to start helicopter school and really jumping headfirst into it. And so it all came through Instagram and through networking, which is
cool. So you weren't flying yet when you started talking to Eli, correct?
No. Yeah. I hadn't started flying. I hadn't even looked into it. I kind of had written off being a pilot right from the get-go. My wife wasn't, my wife wasn't a big fan of it. She didn't love the idea and didn't know the passion I had behind it. And so I didn't feel like it was ever going to be something that I could do. And then I realized that I needed to do it. How'd
you navigate that with your wife? That's complicated.
There were a lot of conversations that you have to be very open and very realistic. And she gave me all of her concerns with just how dangerous they are, and seeing crashes, on Instagram that became very real with just all the recent ones. And so she sees those, and those concerns come up. And so we have to address those, and we have to talk about them. And we did for a while. And I finally was able to kind of get her in a helicopter and go for a ride. And she just saw me light up. And she said, hey, I can't keep you from this dream. I don't know where it's going to lead us, but you have my full support to spend our money and go fulfill this dream of yours. And so it took a while, but she knows how much I love them, and finally came around to it.
She's a sweet girl and an incredible partner to you. I know that she really supports you, and she loves you, and that's why she does that, right? But talk about the unsung heroes, right? I feel like so many times in this business, we're always talking to each other, right? We're talking to Eli, we're talking to me and Cole and you and Ian, but we're not talking necessarily about, Morgan or Savannah or Hillary or Katrina, the wives behind the guys. That must be complicated because I do think about that sometimes, especially recently. There's been some really bad accidents, very public accidents. The one in New York, obviously, was, I don't know, probably it's the worst on-camera accident I've seen. Yeah. Leading up to that, there was that 44 crash in Texas a couple years ago where they kind of tumbled out of the sky as well. Yeah. That one totally freaked me out as well. But man, it's scary. And I can't imagine, I've talked to my parents about this actually, because I was flying airplanes in high school, and I'm like, man, did that stuff scare you guys? And they're like, yeah, I was terrified. And I look back and I'm like, you should have been. I'm soloing on my cell phone, calling my buddies as I fly over their house. Like I was a recipe to crash an airplane. I just got lucky that it didn't happen. Yeah. And even you and me now being responsible pilots, of course, things can happen. And so I know that's something to navigate. That's really a complex thing. And, I think you're right, Spence. You just got to be open and honest. What is that like for her now that you're, almost about to get your private, you've soloed, has she kind of eased into it? Is she high anxious about it still? Like, where's she at?
Verticon was epic. More than 600 companies, 15,000 attendees, and the cutting edge of vertical aviation technology. Next stop, Atlanta. The show floor is filling fast. Apply for space. Secure your spot now at the world's largest vertical aviation show, Verticon, powered by VAI at verticon.org.
It's definitely gotten better. One of the big things that I'm known for in my family and all the people that know me, I'm very adventurous and I'm a risk taker. And so when I initially said, hey, I'm going to go fly helicopters, everyone was like, be careful, man. Like you kind of do some crazy stuff. Who knows what you'll get into. And that's not the mindset to have as a pilot, obviously. No. And so I had to prove to her that, hey, I can be a goofball and have some fun on a snowboard or surfing or whatever we're doing. But the moment that, the engine turns on in the helicopter, even before, doing a pre-flight, you have to make sure that you are preparing and ready for any situation. And so she has seen the level of dedication that I've put in to make sure I can be as safe as possible and control what I can control. And just her seeing that dedication has made a big difference in being able to, trust and know that I'm going to be as safe as I can be.
Yeah, that's interesting, Spence. I didn't know that you're, well, I guess I've seen some of the snowmobile videos.
Yep.
Dude, snowmobiling freaks me out. I got to be honest. So I've snowmobiled a few times.
Yeah.
Way squirrely, way more squirrely than you think. Very dangerous. There's avalanche consideration. There's a family or not a family, but a husband and wife that just died up here in Oregon. They're on a cat track, and I think.
Oh, it came over.
Yeah. So just, that kind of stuff scares me. But it's interesting that you say that because I learned to fly helicopters pretty young.
Yeah.
And I'm overly conservative in everything I do now. Even when I ski, I'm like an old man. I'm like, I don't want to get hurt, But back in the day, I was a little bit crazy. Drive fast, ski fast, do, bungee jump and skydive and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, but man, I did click it into gear as well with the helicopter. Like it never was a thing that was like this is like a fast car or something. I never felt that way. Was there something specific that was it something someone said to you that kind of put you in a different mindset? Was it something that you just kind of felt? What was it about the helicopter that you realized so early that it's like not something to be a thrill seeker in?
I think a lot of it came from Eli and the mentorship that he's given me. I've loved helicopters ever since I was a little kid, like most helicopter pilots are. And so I've known the level of respect that they deserve when flying around them, even just from, ducking your head in as you're getting in and out, doing a tour, right? And so just from having that as a kid, seeing, hey, this is a powerful machine that you shouldn't play around with, it just helped, get that mindset from an early age.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. And again, one of the many reasons it's wonderful to have a mentor to kind of guide that. Eli, man, I flew with Eli, I don't know what, month and a half ago. We did that flight in the mountains with Joe's helicopter.
Yeah.
And I had never flown with Eli. And I'm always, again, I'm very cautious. I don't fly enough to actually be like feeling proficient all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm very conservative in my weather calls. Kind of a bluebird flyer now. Like I don't have to go fly and I'm okay with that. And I'm always a little apprehensive when I fly with people that fly all the time, because I've been in situations before where sometimes their flight experience equals some complacency, right? And something that I really enjoyed with Eli, man, is there was none of that. And I'm not just trying to ride the Eli train, but like for real was impressed with his conservativeness. We didn't push anything. Everything was super. We were doing things that were high risk, landing in deeper snow, landing at higher altitude, flying in some lower clouds and visibility, but none of it was unsafe, right? Yeah. And the second it started to feel like we were going in a path of like, oh, that's not good, we just turned around. We actually sat it out, went to lunch up by that lake that you and I and him actually hung out at in the summertime.
Yeah.
We went up there and had lunch and then got through the clouds, after lunch, turn around, don't drown, like it worked in our situation. I really appreciated that from Eli. And that's a guy that has thousands and thousands of hours. He's flying in an operation that he's his own boss, essentially, right? When it comes to the flight department. So really cool that he's checking himself, and he's obviously just a good decision maker. So yeah, Eli's doing it right. And that's what we need, right? We need guys and gals that are willing to step out there and say, hey, look, there's some cool things you can do in a helicopter, but you got to be safe, right? Not everyone on Instagram follows that same path. So, I'm glad to see that he's doing it that way. So it was when I met you in person, that was the summertime, obviously, because we went to that lake, right?
Yep.
Also got Chipotle, by the way. You and Eli have like a Chipotle thing.
Yeah, good restaurant.
So that wasn't the first time you met Eli, but the first time you met me in person.
Yeah.
That was a fun night, man. That was cool. It was all hanging out. We got to hang out with Spencer and his lovely wife. And of course, Eli, his wife, their little baby. We went out to this lake, swam way too far out in the lake, realized that I'm not a great swimmer. Actually, I thought I was going to die. Luckily. What was that?
That got crazy. Happened to cling onto a paddleboard way out there.
Oh, yeah. And also got you into cold plunging that day.
Yeah, that was the first like big, long cold plunge we did.
Are you still plunging?
I've kind of put it on hold just with how busy I have gotten in the mornings, but I noticed a difference. Like I am not as awake in the morning, so I need to get back into it.
I like the plunge, man.
Yeah.
I've decided, I can't decide if it actually is effective. You know, I'm going on almost a year. I did take a little bit of a break, but almost like a year of, call it 75% consistency of plunging. And I'm not sure if I'm getting all like the benefits that you read about, but there's just something I enjoy about it. So I'm like, well, that's a benefit, right? I enjoy it. But I'm doing it not in the river anymore. I actually go to a place where you have your own little room, and you have a plunge and a sauna.
That's the way.
It's so nice to plunge and then sauna, or vice versa. Yeah. And I think Eli actually has a little setup now. Didn't you guys put some together in his backyard?
Yeah, he mostly did the building. He'll let me help a little bit, but he's got the whole setup with hot tub, plunge, and sauna. It's pretty cool.
So a couple schools in your area, you had some choices. You ended up going to Utah HeliCASTS. Yeah. Shout out to Keith. It's Campbell, right?
Yeah, Keith Campbell.
But Keith, our boy, owns Utah HeliCASTS. He's been on the podcast, so make sure you check out the episode. And I don't know much about the school, to be honest, but what was your driving force of choosing Utah HeliCASTS?
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway secret word. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's secret word is cyclic. Visit contests.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the secret word.
Well, when I did my demo flight with them, I just saw all the one-on-one that they give to the students and the care that they put into it. And so I met Keith. My instructor, her name was Haley, and she was just amazing, right? Took me up in the mountains. We flew over. It was during the fall, so the colors were beautiful. And she just really showed me, hey, this is what the schedule would look like. We're going to do it at your own pace, but you're going to have access to an instructor whenever you want. You can, see their schedule and pick when they're free. And then we also have multiple different 22s and aircrafts to choose from to fly in. The big benefit is they're about 15 minutes down the road from me. Universal is the other school, and they're even closer. They're only about 5 minutes away from me. I live kind of right in between the two airports that they're at. But Utah HeliCASTS just had more of a family feel, but they just felt more personal. You have a lot more one-on-one, and you get put with an instructor and you work with them for a while. And so I really like that aspect of just being able to have the same instructor, work with one person and get through everything.
Yeah, no, look, Universal obviously has been around forever. My good buddy, Matt Huey, works there in Utah. I feel like he's a staple kind of in the industry. I love Matt, but when you're picking a school, you have to kind of judge it on your vibe. And look, Universal's a big school, right? Yeah. And Utah HeliCASTS is not as big. It's so easy to kind of understand that family aspect, that family vibe. Are you training a 141 syllabus, a 61 syllabus?
I believe it's the 161. Just your own curriculum, your own schedule.
Yeah.
It's not with a university. And so it's just my own schedule that we made.
Perfect. Part 61, good training. Again, 141, I that was kind of more of my background. I enjoy the structure of that. But 61 gives some more flexibility, especially guys like you that privately funded, kind of paying as you go. Part 61 really allows for you to have a little bit more flexibility. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're looking at schools, there's sometimes a misconception like, oh, I shouldn't do Part 61. You can do Part 61. It's not bad training. There's just no required syllabus from the FAA, right? 141, then you get what's called a TCO, which is a training course outline that's actually approved by the FAA. Yeah. It does cut down some of your requirements and hours and things like that. but it just adds some structure. But it doesn't mean that 61 is bad. So I think sometimes there's the misconception like, oh, I got to go 141. Yeah. Shouldn't do 61. Not always the case. Now, if you're VA and you're trying to, use your VA benefits to pay like post 9/11 GI Bill, things like that, then you have to go 141 through a college program. And not all schools will even have those relationships. Do you know if Utah Helicopters has that?
They don't have that. The closest one here in Utah is Southern University.
Okay, yeah, and so the SUU has the relationship with whatever college, and yeah, they can then do the VA program. So, well, that's cool, Spence. What's training been like for you? What's been the highs? I guess, man, it's been a long time since I only had 52 hours in a helicopter, and so put me back into that mindset. What is it like for you to get in the helicopter still? Yeah. Are you just ear to ear every time?
Oh, it's the best day of the week when I get to go fly. I'm always looking to how can I get in a helicopter, whether to fly it or just go for a ride. And so, kind of touching on the part 141 versus the 161, Utah Helicopter had a wait list. And so I couldn't just get in and start going. And so when I had met with Eli, he said, hey, you can get all your ground done on your own. If you are good at studying and want to come prepared, here's all the curriculum and the information. And so I actually had taken my ground test, my written test, before I even started flying. And so that
man, that is solid advice, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, now with 141, you can't do that, right? Because you have to do the ground with the instructor, and you have to go lesson by lesson by lesson. So yeah, 100%. Great point. Glad you brought that up. Again, if you didn't catch what Spencer was just saying there, because you're new to it or whatnot, essentially with 61, you have flexibility, and there isn't really a ground requirement that I'm familiar with, like an hour ground requirement. I know that there's topics that need to be covered and you have to have proficiency, but there's no like, oh, you have to have 40 hours of ground. For a guy that's self-funding like Spence, that's huge, right? What is it? What's an hour of instruction these days?
It's $55.
$55. So
can add up.
You times that by 40, 50 hours, that's a substantial savings. That's 3 to 5 hours of flight time probably that you're able to get just by taking the initiative to study on your own. And you can do that with 61. So yeah, Eli killed that advice. That was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just on the flying aspect of it, learning how to hover. I'm sure all the experienced guys listening, remember that day, but it took me a little bit to figure it out. And I was actually, when I had sent you that initial email, was the first day that I had like really started to hover. It was nice. Like 10 or 11. You were like, you're kidding. Like, no way. It was just really funny. But I remember calling you and we were talking about helicopter. And I was like, hey, I finally hovered today, like on my own. It was this big milestone. And then every day, just learning a little bit more. The one downside, because I am self-funding, I'm only flying once a week. And so coming back to flying after a week, kind of have to remember what we learned and how to pick up on it. And so something that helped a ton, as silly as it sounds, is just flying in your head, sitting on the couch and pretending that you're in the helicopter. I would practice auto rotations and hover autos and all of these procedures that, when the helicopter's running, your money's burning. And so then when, I'm in the helicopter, I've visually gone through that and am more prepared than just going into it after a week of not flying. And so that's been a huge help as well.
It's so important. And I love that you're doing that. Look, Spence, you're in a position that's it's difficult, right? Learning how to fly helicopters is a financial burden, and it's expensive. Some people have parents that can better support it. There's some loans that you can get that aren't very fair. People have VA benefits. And some people, work and they make their money and then they're able to, save a little extra with their family to go and do these flight lessons. And so the thing that I love about your journey, Spencer, is I think that there's maybe a lot of people that are just so afraid to do helicopters because of the financial burden. And look, are you taking the world's fastest route? You're not, but you're taking the route that's possible for you now.
Exactly.
Right. and you didn't wait around. And, I think it's awesome. Yeah, you got to do some chair flying in between, and you're only getting to fly once a week, but you're doing it, right? You're consistently doing it, and you're going to get it done. And you're only at 52 hours, and you're about to get your private. So it's like you're actually
doing really well
below average of where most people are at, especially like back-to-back flying. Like you shouldn't be where you're at, to be honest. So clearly the chair flying is working out. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're kind of in a similar position, you're a young professional, you're all about wanting to train, your family is amazing and they love you, but maybe they can't financially support, $100,000 or whatever into helicopter flight school. It doesn't have to happen that way, right? You can work hard and then have your Saturday be your flying day. And then if you're like Spencer and you network in between, the magic that Spencer's not telling you about is this guy flies in helicopters more than probably the instructors do at Utah.
It was amazing because I maybe had 11 hours total in the 22. And Eli called me and said, hey, I have this opportunity to fly a 130 from Colorado all the way to Haas up at Eurotech.
Yep.
So I said, hey, I will be there. I'll do whatever I need to do. And got the same amount of hours in a turbine helicopter. And in a 130, honestly, in my opinion, the coolest helicopter.
It's pretty cool.
More turbine time than I did in a 22.
Yeah.
And it just was this crazy moment where then I'm going to flight school and all the buddies are like, holy crap, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I talk to people and I go up to the guy that lands the helicopter and I introduce myself.
Yeah, it's important.
So many doors.
And you've got to do a lot of flying. You're flying a ton with Eli, a ton with Cole. So, I mean, look, that's a benefit and that's free, right? Yeah. That's time where you're absorbing, you're getting better. So again, you're doing it right and you're doing it the way that you can. And that's important. And I think that that's a roadblock for a lot of people like, oh, I can't afford it. It's like, well, you can, right? It might not be as quick and pretty as if mom and dad can just stroke a check, but it's the way that you're doing it. So I commend that. I took a student loan out. My family supported me my entire life and gave me a great life, but my parents weren't in a position to fund any type of schooling like that. It just wasn't in the cards. So, I took a loan out, finally paid that thing off, but that kicked my ass. If I could go back again, I don't know if I would.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it got me here, so maybe I would, and maybe I would be a little smarter with paying it off and not letting the interest, kill me. But, I guess you can either buy a really expensive truck when you're 18 or you can
exactly
take the loan out. So, I don't know. But so 52 hours, you've soloed. You've had some other cool extracurricular activities just through your networking. You actually started working with me at Helicopter, kind of on a part-time level, out there selling aircraft, connecting more with the industry, doing really well with that. I know that you had a little bit of a speed bump recently. And here in the email, you say, I am an open book. So we're going to talk about it. And actually, you also talk about it here. So you're an open book, but you had a rough go at a stage check recently. So, talk to me about that.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Yeah, it was a stage 2 check. And so for those that don't know, it has a kind of a little bit more information and info to go over with weather and how to read a supplement chart and how to read a METAR and kind of these detailed things that are very important. And as I was going through my ground, I had taken ground and had passed the test before. And so I recently got a new instructor and his advice was, hey, when I did my check ride, the DPE was just curious if I could read a METAR, and that was all we covered. He just wanted to make sure I could look outside at the clouds, and if it wasn't safe to fly, we weren't going to fly, and we didn't really get into the weeds. So then as I studied the information and different types of clouds and stuff, I kind of just breezed over it and didn't learn it. I knew the words, I knew kind of a little bit of information on it, and I didn't get into the detail though. And then I went into the check ride thinking I was going to be good to go, or the stage check, excuse me. And I was humbled very, very quickly. I realized I did not know nearly enough to, pass or even feel like I was competent in what I was talking about. And so it really, showed me that when you're the pilot, you are the one in charge. And if you don't know something, you could get into a problem quickly. And so the more that you can know and be prepared, the safer you're going to be, and the more responsible pilot you are going to show those around you. And so it humbled me quickly. And so being able to just realize I don't know everything and you need to get into the details, it really opened my eyes.
Yeah, look, that's a struggle for me too, right? I'm honestly not a detail guy. I'm kind of like, give me enough to get by, and that's just that's my personality. I'm not afraid to say that. And I'm lucky because I taught for so long. So like whether I was a detail guy or not, it just all became real detailed to me. Even to this day, I feel like I could teach helicopter ground and do it fairly effectively. It's like ingrained in here, but it's complicated when you're going through it because aviation's funny, right? Because you're really a jack of all trades, but you're an expert in nothing, right? So you learn some weather, but you're not a meteorologist. You learn some far aim, but you're not a lawyer. You learn aerodynamic hazards, but you're not an aeronautical engineer. You learn, systems and things like that, but you're not an engineer for building helicopters. You learn all these things at a level of proficiency, but like you're an expert in none. And sometimes, I had students before that were like legitimate physicists, and I remember this one guy was trying to explain to me resonate, like he was a student, right? A private student. And I'm like, ground resonance. Yeah. Because of this and that. And he's like, well, actually, no, if you look at the physics, I'm like, dude, Matthias, I have no idea what you're saying, bro. Like, I can't go that deep. And can be complicated. Weather, especially, right? It's like, okay, do I really care if my student can tell me all this stuff about an occluded front versus a cold front or a warm front? And yeah, it's like important to know, right? You should be able to see what's coming. You should be able to forecast a little bit. I think the problem is if you're doing an exam, like a practical exam, someone asking you questions, the second they find a weakness, it's just they want to go and exploit that. So even on a check ride, who cares if you know all that stuff? Like, I don't think it necessarily makes you a safer pilot, going on the record saying that. Right? Like, if you don't know everything about weather, I don't think it damages you. But it could give the examiner a reason to dig deep. And, man, if he doesn't like what you say, it could be a reason to fail. Me personally, I like to kind of look at it more from a practical standpoint. I don't want my students to fly in the clouds. So what are some considerations for that? Well, I would like them to be fairly comfortable with like a dew point temperature spread. Okay, what happens when the dew point and the temperature meet? And what does that saturation really mean? Do we always have fog? No, not always. But, knowing things like that, I think is important. But, look, I think it's good to be humbled every once in a while. So what have you taken away from that experience? And did you have an opportunity to retake that stage check?
Yeah. Taking it away, I realized, I need to study more. And so I went back and learned the things that I wasn't quite as proficient at, and went back and we kind of covered over everything. Again, the things that I wasn't good at, I proved, hey, I know the difference between an iso bar and it's not an isogonic bar, right? Messing up.
What's an iso bar? That's like a Klondike bar, like a chocolate bar? I'm kidding.
Something like that. Yeah, you see them on the maps, and the closer they are.
Like more wind or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And so we went back and again realized, hey, there's just a lot of curriculum within the stage 2. Let's have you come back one more time. We'll cover everything. We'll go over it all. Make sure you cover everything. And we'll do this just one more time. And so I'm studying right now, trying to just make sure that when I go back to that, we can just cover everything instead of just the weak points that I went back and studied, and being able to just redo that whole thing and show that, hey, I learned that I didn't know it. I need to go learn it. And now I've learned it and not just memorized it for the moment.
I mean, I feel like I always had to earn my certificates and my instrument rating. Like, I feel like, the examiners, it's not, in my opinion, I've never had an experience where it felt easy. I got lucky because I had cool examiners. Mark Holstadt was awesome. And he was just a very gentle human. So he made you feel comfortable, which is huge. And then my good buddy Sean Moretz, he gave me my instrument, but I had to earn it, man. It was no walk in the park, and so I think it's good to you got to know your stuff, right? If you're gonna have a pilot certificate, you gotta be aware of that stuff.
Yeah.
For me, Spencer, I think one of the most anxious moments of my life was the night before I had my private check ride. Are you getting any jitters about that? Like, I remember it like yesterday. I remember where I had dinner. It felt like I was walking into my own funeral. Honestly, like it was like my last day on earth.
Yeah, I don't have anything scheduled, so I don't have like a date that I'm worried for. But after just that first experience, not knowing things and feeling just humiliated, coming unprepared and digging into all those things I didn't know, it made me want to prepare even more. So when the check ride is an actual date, I can be ready for it. Because I left that stage check just completely in tears, right? I was just so frustrated, was like, this is so stupid. If I see that it's raining outside, I'm not going to go fly into the rain. I don't need to tell you all the information about the rain. And I called Eli and was like, this is so dumb. Like if there's clouds, I'm not going to fly in them. And that's where I was humbled quickly. He said, hey, I love you, but that's not the mindset to have. You know, you have to, and it was the perfect call out. And it was perfect because it came from someone that I look up to and trust. And he was able to just show me, hey, like, even if you know you're not going to go fly in there, if you're preparing for a flight or looking to fly across the country like we did, you have to be able to read a map and say, hey, what type of weather could be around the corner that we're not, seeing right in front of us. And so it was very, very helpful to have that humbling moment.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And, I'm glad that Eli gave you some tough love on that one. And look, we've talked about this before and never hurts to mention again that to me, there's a difference between, say, like a recreational pilot and a professional pilot, and I know that you want to be a professional pilot. And so you have to have the professional pilot mindset, right? You gotta, on an earlier podcast that I recorded, we were talking about, this guy's flying in an S92. He's been flying for years and years and years, but he's constantly studying still. He's opening up the RFM and he's reading the emergency procedures and he's going through his flows and he's trying to always make sure that he's on his A game. And to me, that's like the professionalism, right? And Eli gets it. I got it. I always tried to check myself when I was flying. On that podcast, I actually talked about a time where I had kind of lulled in my self-improvement of always learning. I was kind of getting lazy in the aeromedical world. And like I had some type of amber light come on. And like, I don't know what to do necessarily, right? Like, probably land as soon as practical, so I'm going to go with that. But it'd be really nice if I studied my EPs more, right? And that's a humbling experience. And you walk away from something like that with a benign situation, and it's kind of a no harm, no foul. But the fact that you're not trying to get better or study, that's the foul, right? And you can only really get away with that kind of behavior or that mindset for so long until it bites you. Yeah. So I think it's more of just creating this thing of like wanting to know more. Like as a helicopter pilot, especially if you want to be a professional one, it's like you have to have this ever curiosity of learning and how can you be better.
Yeah.
Recently, not so recently, it's this winter, I thought this was cool. I think it was your dad, right? Did you have an opportunity to take your dad flying with Eli?
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter is back at EAA AirVenture 2025 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Join Instrom the week of July 21st at booth number 333 for a special showcase of the 280FX and the brand new fully loaded 480B Elite model. Find tickets online on the EAA website.
Yeah, we had an afternoon where they needed to go find and scout out a location in the Utah backcountry, and that's where me and my dad grew up on snowmobiles. And so he said, hey, let's hop in the helicopter, and we got to go fly around, and my dad got to experience that for the first time, really, where we were both in the helicopter. Usually it's me texting him, hey, I'm flying over, and he's looking up, right? But that time he was next to me and just, smiling from ear to ear. It was awesome.
Yeah, he dug it. Was that his first time in a helicopter?
He had flown, we had flown in a 125 maybe 15 years ago in Hawaii on a little tour. And that's kind of what sparked, my love for him as well. But from there, from 15 years ago, he hadn't been in a helicopter since. And so this was his first, where it was me and him. He's seen my love for him grow, and we got to go kind of experience that and fly over the house and just have a lot of fun.
Man, that's awesome. And yeah, that's a awesome, cool flight to do. I kind of got to do something similar with Eli. So
yeah,
talk about an awesome second ride in a helicopter, right? Like probably one of the most beautiful flights that you can do is that. Utah is so incredible. I got to do that camping trip a couple years ago. That was so fun. I'm hoping this year talk Eli and maybe Joe and Cole into doing something similar, all meeting up. I know Joe's planning his Lake Powell trip, and there'll be helicopters and stuff and things, involved. My problem with the summer is I'm having a kid. So I don't know, like I feel like my summer flying activities might be cut a little bit short, but who knows? Well, Spence, very proud of you. You're killing it. It's funny. A lot of my listeners are guys and gals that are more actually similar to you and less similar to me. They're cooler, so obviously they're just like you off the bat. But they, they want to learn how to fly. They're interested in getting flying, and so to be able to hear different stories. I've had other people on that are. I think you might take the cake for the lowest time. There's one guy that snuck on the podcast that wasn't a pilot. I didn't realize that until about halfway through the episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, funny story. We released the episode and it was fine. I took it a different direction when I figured out, like, oh, this guy's not a pilot.
Okay.
Ground guy, totally fine. Learned about what he did on the ground dispatch side.
Yeah.
So I think other than him, I think that you were the lowest time guy that we've had on. But that's huge, actually, because it takes, you have to have 52 hours to get to 1,000, right?
Yep.
You have to get through your private check ride and your solo and your stage 2 check before you can go and, work in the world. And so you're in the very beginning phase, and your path is slightly untraditional in the fact that, you're gunslinging out there for yourself, you're advocating for yourself, and you're self-funding. The good news, Spence, is you're going to be a ninja at selling helicopters. I just know it. So I think your self-funding will be hopefully increased as the months and the years go on. I'm excited to just continue to grow the relationship with you, and proud to have you on the team. What are you excited for right now, man? What are you just amped about with helicopters right now?
I mean, number one, we have to shout out Helicopter.
Shout it out
to be on the team. But I'm just excited to see where it goes, because my path isn't as clear as, someone that took out a loan or is doing it in a very quick manner. There's a lot of opportunities for me to find kind of my niche and figure it out. And I think I found a big part of it at Helicopter, being able to, sell helicopters and get more into that world. I feel like it will open doors. And so I'm excited to see where they take me, because I don't have an end goal in sight where I want to fly air medical or go fight fires. I would love to do any of those, but I don't know with the path I'm on what will come first and where I will end up at the end of the day. So I'm excited for the unknown.
Sometimes the best plans are the ones that are unplanned. Yeah. I don't remember who I was talking to about that recently. It was someone, I thought it was someone helicopter related. But yeah, we were kind of just essentially saying like, guy, shout out to Wyeth. That's who it was. He's a podcast listener.
Okay.
I bumped into him at Mount Bachelor. He had recognized me. We started to chat. He's at school here at Leading Edge, and we had coffee the other day. And his whole thoughts, I was like, oh, man, I'm not going to put any plan on it. I'm just going to kind of go with the flow, which I think is cool. I think it's good to have goals and kind of a long-term look and a long-term plan. But, I think it's also okay to kind of play it, right, and see what happens. And then when opportunities arise, you take advantage of those opportunities. And so, yeah, I'm excited for you, Spence. I'm excited to see not only where you grow within my organization. Obviously, that's something that's near and dear to me. But I understand that your path may be different than that, right? The helicopter may open some financial doors to help you maybe finish school faster, and then you go sow your oats and fight fires or do whatever. It don't matter, right? I'm just excited to see where the career takes you. and just lucky to call you a friend. It's so neat to have you on. I know that you're also a longtime listener. What is it about the podcast that you like?
Well, it was initially, I didn't know if I wanted to. I wanted to get into helicopters, but I didn't know what it looked like. Before talking to Eli, I had no idea what the different schools were, the different options were. And you've had a lot of people on that have unique perspectives. People that have, I can't remember the guy's name, but he said, get your fixed wing private first, and then get into helicopters. There's ways where you can learn the radio and save money. And he had a unique perspective. And so just being able to hear everyone's story and how they did it really helped me figure out, hey, what's my story going to be? How am I going to get involved with this and do it myself and take that leap to start learning? And so I just love the information and how diverse it can be, from, CEOs to 52-hour student pilots,
Love it, dude. That's what the Helicopter Podcast is all about. And it's guys like Spencer that just keep me motivated to keep doing what I'm doing. This is a slog. This is a lot of work to do this, but I enjoy it. We have a great team with Zach. Zach, the producer, obviously he's killing it, wearing multiple hats. It's Helicopter and helping produce it. David, of course, over at MHM with Vertical Magazine, doing all the back end editing. So it's a labor of love, but it's super cool, and it's just fun to see the value add for so many people. And I know that there's some value that you took out of it, so it's fun to now have you on. It's fun to have you as a friend. I just think it's cool, and it's a neat industry, and I'm just feel lucky to be part of it. I think it's a heli life, man, is truly something special, and it's so fun to be a part of, and it's just the people that make it. Spence, really appreciate you. Copter Cahoon. Check him out on Insta. Man, you had some viral stuff already, haven't you?
Nothing crazy. Our buddy Cole has had a couple million viewed videos, but I just like to make little videos.
I remember one of your videos kind of like skyrocketed. I feel like the CEO of Robinson was even commenting on your post.
He reposted my first solo flight ever. I have a video of that, and
you had thousands of views. I don't even I'm chopped liver compared to that, brother.
Yeah, and you're getting there. The videos that you put out are very fun, though.
Videos are, we're getting there.
Yeah,
I should just stick with podcasting. That's my bread and butter. But no, you're killing it, man.
Appreciate it.
Hey, look, if you're listening to the podcast, take a play out of Spencer's book, man. Reach out, connect. If you thought about messaging me, and but you haven't for whatever reason, do it. If you have someone like Eli that you look up to, or maybe it's Lee Coates, who's also a really cool influencer online, or now even Copter Cahoon or Cole Copters, whoever it may be. If you want to talk to him, right? Shoot your shot. We're all about, I'm all about trying to connect. If you message me, I can always guarantee I'll hit you back. And I love talking to new people and learning about what you're doing. So please continue to correspond. Do what Spencer does, because he's a networking fool, networking machine. Spence, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. To our listeners, thank you guys so much. To our sponsors, we appreciate you. Spencer's learning in a Robinson helicopter, and Robinson's a proud sponsor, so that's exciting. And to our apparel brand, our mutual buddy Clint Pulver and York over at Heli Life. Appreciate the awesome gear. It's nice quality stuff too. Not bad. It's not bad. I like the white too. It's just very it's very good looking. Yeah, very professional. This is the collared shirt.
Yep.
So anyway, Spence, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Halsey. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
Verticon was epic. More than 600 companies, 15,000 attendees, and the cutting edge of vertical aviation technology. Next stop, Atlanta. The show floor is filling fast. Apply for space. Secure your spot now at the world's largest vertical aviation show, Verticon, powered by VAI at verticon.org. Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors. Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter is back at EAA AirVenture 2025 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Join Instrom the week of July 21st at booth number 333 for a special showcase of the 280FX and the brand new fully loaded 480B Elite model. Find tickets online on the EAA website.